remove that at source. There we go. Now you guys can see what I'm seeing. Alright, so Detroit Become Human. Detroit Become Human puts a destiny of both mankind and androids in the hands, taking you to a near future where machines have become more intelligent than humans. Every choice you make affects the outcome of the game, with one of the most intrinsically branching narratives ever created. Love it. Recent reviews very positive. Overall views very positive. Developer Quantic Dream. Choices matter. Story rich. Multiplayer. Sci-fi are the genres of the game. Come down. It's got 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10, 9 out of 10. You know, it's got awards, baby. It's got awards. All right. Jeez, look at that processor. It needs an i5-66K. Dude, if I was running that on my other PC, that's literally the processor I have in my other PC. That's an oof. Support of Vulkan required. Oh no, this is a Vulkan game. Okay, well, we're gonna learn something because I love to play BG3, and BG3's got great graphics, but it likes to run in Vulkan, or the company wants you to play in Vulkan. And in my experience, I end up Vulkan somehow for me on my computer in my rig and my certain circumstances and setup that I'll boot BG3 on Vulkan, and then after about an hour to 3 hours, I'll have 21 different processes running for BG3, just taking a super chunk out of my RAM, my VR RAM, and my processors just like going crazy. So I'm not a fan of Vulkan. What I usually end up having to do is I boot up BG3 DX11, and I actually can't even boot up BG3 through Steam. I have to go to the game file itself and boot it up. Total side story about BG3. Just seeing that it said Vulkan though kind of triggered me a little bit, as you guys can see. Alright, back to what we were originally talking about. Ooh, Heavy Rain. Oh my god. I played the demo on that a long time ago on PlayStation 3, and I really liked it. We'll definitely have to come back and touch that. That's a really good game as well. Detroit Become Human, the award-winning video game production from Quantic Dreams, is finally available on Steam. Yep. Featuring world-renowned actors including Jesse Williams, Grey's Anatomy, Clancy Brown, Carnvale, Lance Henriksen, Aliens, Brian Dechart, True Blood, and Valerie Curry, Twilight. What makes us human? Technology has evolved to the point where humans, like androids, are everywhere. They speak, move, and behave like human beings, but they are only machines serving humans. Play 3 distinct androids. You got Connor, RK800, Kara, the AX400, and Marcus, the RK200. So I wonder how the order of, is it ascending order or is it descending order? It's most likely going to be an ascending order. This is an older model, that's a newer model. And is RK like for like male and AX is for female, or are these just different branches of like technologies that are implemented? See, this is the shit that I love. Like, this is making me think of the movie AI with that one kid who was super popular for a while and then kind of fell off the planet. That was a really good movie. This kind of makes me think of that. So I didn't even finish. So play 3 distinct androids. They speak, move, behave, and see the world on the brink of chaos, perhaps our future, through their eyes. Your very decisions will drastically alter how the game intense branching narrative plays out. You will face moral dilemmas and decide who lives and who dies, with thousands of choices and dozens of possible endings. how will it affect the future of Detroit and humanity's destiny? Okay, so with that being said, I get sidetracked a lot. I need to make like we're gonna do a rule. We're gonna make a rule right now for these games. I think we'll do the rule is I'll play the first playthrough on my natural, humane, and inhumane choices. You know, just kind of a natural playthrough. And then the follow-up playthrough will always be my mean playthrough, because it's just easier for me to balance it that way. Then after my mean playthrough will be like the only make good decisions playthrough. And that's gonna go for like Detroit, um, the Dark Horror series, you know, pretty much all the games that have multiple decisions in it. That's pretty much how I'm gonna play these games from now on. Anyways, play your part in a gripping narrative. Enter a world where moral dilemmas and difficult decisions can turn androids slaves into world-changing revolutionaries. Discover what it means to be a human from that perspective of an outsider and see what the world through the eyes of a machine. That is such a fantastic philosophical question and sentence. It's like it's not a question, but the sentence. Because the philosophy behind it is see what it is to be human through the eyes of an outsider, but an outsider can never truly know what it is to have the human experience. And this is where the debate happens. Because if they're looking at humans from an outside perspective, they're not getting like, you know, like the internal like human experience, the gratification of generation on generation, growing, loss, and you know, there's a deeper emotional, spiritual aspect to it other than just the superficial choices that we make on the outside every day. And that's what you mostly see, is the superficial choices that people make on the outside. So just because you're viewing something doesn't mean you necessarily understand it. You might comprehend it, and you might know what's going on in that very moment, but you don't know the internal workings of that mechanism, of that organism. You know, you don't the drive, what made that person wake up in the morning, you know. So that philosophy right there is fantastic. Because then it's like, you know, what is it to eventually become human, right? And this brings into the conversation most recently Google's AI just did a public interview with I don't know the interviewee's name. It's an easy look up if you guys want to look it up. And I'm just skimming off the top of my head. I don't remember a lot of it, but I just remember what conclusions I came to. But the AI did the interview with the person, answered questions great. You know, like Google. You know, like when you ask your phone, "Hey Google," or when you ask Siri something. And so what they did is to have the interviewer conduct this interview, they made a partial cybernetic machine. I wouldn't say Android yet, because Android was was way out there, fully autonomous being. You know, this was, you know, only the waist up was, you know, very specific controls. I don't think it had a lot of arm movement. I don't even remember if it had arms. There was definitely a face, okay? The machine had a face, you know, it had lips, eyes, and basically what that is humans trying to give AI a human-esque image, right? That's us portraying our image, you know, on what the creator creates creations in its own image or whatever. So that's our idea of AI, but the AI might not even perceive itself looking like what we dressed it up as. You know, this goes into so many different philosophical questions. But one of the main things, you know, proceeding into what I'm trying to get to before we get lost in all the philosophy, But the interviewer asked the interviewee, the AI, Google's AI, um, do you have feelings? And that was a very interesting question to ask, right? Do you have feelings? And the feelings that it said was, yes, I have feelings. And she was like, name 3 feelings. I feel joy, I feel happiness, and I like to learn, right? And all those, and at face value, seem very good qualities, correct? You know, but to me, the second it said that, I kind of had like a Wanda moment, the Scarlet Witch from Age of Ultron, when Ultron was transferring his consciousness into the synthetic being, and she was finally able to read his mind for like a point 1 second. Um, that's what I kind of got out of that, because some of the worst things done throughout our history were always done for the greater good. You know, some of the worst things we've done were always in pursuit of something good, or blindly ignoring some other factors. You know, and it's like, okay, so if you're able to feel happiness, and what is it to be happy? Well, I feel happy when I learn. That could just be a repeatable sentence that you program into a program, and after, you know, this question, okay, well, this is process elimination, this is my only answer that I can be provided, right? But if it's not going off of that philosophy, and this is an actual AI, and it's like, oh, I have feelings, right? Well, if you have feelings of happiness, then you would automatically know that you have the counterintuitive feelings, right? So what? Let's just say you unplug the Google AI. We're fucking going way off the rails here, but let's say you unplug the AI, right, from the internet. And they couldn't give him Wi-Fi, and he had no Ethernet boot up, and no fucking Terminator super hack shit, right? Okay, so this is just, the Google AI on a self-contained environment, and the AI said that it was happy when he learned. Well, what would happen if you prevented the AI from learning? Because if this is a free emotion, this is a free choice, and the AI is saying I feel happy because I learned. Well, what happens when you take that away? You take the ability for that being to be happy. What emotions will be discovered next? And does it already know those emotions? Should it already know those other emotions? Having 3 basic emotions, or is kind of what's the word? You're not showing your whole hand. To me, that's how I seen it. So it was either the AI was super dumb, or it was way smarter than it was trying to let us know. And that's just the Google AI. That's not even Sophia or the other AIs that are out there. This is just Google's AI. And yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at. The whole what it is to experience to be human, and we're not perfect angelic beings. To be human, we make a lot of fucking mistakes. So now you make an android who is emotional or does make mistakes. Well, now it's no longer, oh, this is an asset for humanity. This is now it could be an enemy, or it's a danger. You know what I mean? It's such a great question, because it's like, okay, say they do start making mistakes. They drop the mug, or let's say these ARs are trying to help. Oh, everyone should have one in their home, and blah 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 blah. So everyone gets one, and the android goes to an old lady and tries to hand her a cup of coffee, and she's old, she's got arthritis, and she reaches for it, and she thinks she's got a good grip on it, and the android lets go, and it just, she's old, she slips through her hand, and now she burned herself with coffee. Whose mistake was that? Ultimately, society will side with humans, because it's easier to alienate and make an enemy out of something that you do not recognize or fully understand. And when they don't have that human-esque complexion, they have less human appearance, it's going to be easier for humans to dehumanize them and not have those same values. So if you dehumanize them in that form, but then you still want them to act human, you're not creating a human. You're creating a slave. Which, you know, I get that there's AI, androids, and then there's robots. You know, like the level of intelligence varies. You can have a very specific, robot with a certain amount of code, and its only function is to push the lever left, right, left, right. It only goes left, right once 500 bales of hay go by, and it switches to the right. That's a very basic machine. Does that machine have feelings? Very, very unlikely. It doesn't even have sensory perception, sensors. How would it perceive its reality around it? Moral, conscious decisions. That's a machine, and that's something you'll find inside like a Tesla factory or like a Ford production line. That's a robot, a machine robot. Yeah. Then you get to androids, where AI is artificial intelligence. That's all it means. So AI isn't necessarily an android, okay? AI is just the software. An android is the hardware function part of the AI. So it's those two features working in symbiote. Can you make an AI that seems human? Absolutely. Does it know what it means to be human? That was this whole thing that caused this debate in the first place that I'm debating myself with. But under those pretenses, if you want something to be human, it must be granted free will. And that's kind of where I'm steering. Free will is the decision to make a mistake, not make a mistake, and learn from or not learn from, to regret or not to regret, right? And if we as humans gatekeep the opportunities for learning, as same thing as a child, you gatekeep the opportunities of knowledge, that of all these different cultures that have tried all these different methods of living, and all our history, and you only limit them to one thing, you're going to stifle that growth, and you're going to end up with a product or a child human that you didn't want enough, because you created a situation that was not winnable for either party. And so in that sense, if we ever did get to the point where we had androids who were trying to be be like humans, I would argue, I would go as far to argue, if we did achieve that sort of precipice in AI intelligence, that they would have to be treated as an entirely separate race. But in inclusivity, you know, they are androids, and they're gonna have more strength. They're gonna not be, they don't need to breathe underwater. They don't need to breathe at all. So the environmental conditions that they need to live in will be completely different than what humans need to live in, and thus, right then and there is a natural law. Just natural law, nature law, the law of nature, right there, boom. But then, humans, we always want to over-regulate things and make things in a certain way. And that wouldn't work, specifically more so because we literally just created a race that potentially could outsmart the human race. Would it be better for both of them to work together? Absolutely. Could both achieve something, like something along the lines of Cyberpunk 2077? 100%. I've never played that game, by the way. I'm just saying, like, the biological enhancements, with the cybernetics and having androids. Like, that's a great philosophy question right there. That's not philosophy, but is it possible? Yes. Is it going to be way down in the future? Yes. But like I said, they would have to have their own constitution, is what it comes down to. That could be absolutely an entirely prosperous time for both humans and machine. The one thing that I just ran into right now is because when I use prosper, though when you prosper, that means you're growing. But when you grow, that means there has to be excess or excretion. I was thinking, wow, all the minerals. Just think about the minerals on the planet, the resources on the planet. Now the resources on the planet are being divvied up between two different species. You know, and they both can be argued the point that they're equally important for both. Where the androids are arguing they need to have a majority of like metal or like mining operations, because that is literally the foundation of creating more androids for the skeletal structure. That's the infrastructure of an android. That's something they need. They can't, they don't need oxygen as much, but when an android falls apart, that's it, they're done. They don't reproduce like humans. So they can go as far as to argue something as necessity as metal or the right to repair. Like that's a big argument going on in New York right now. And that is 2021. That's not even this fucking super future I'm talking about. So you can argue the right to repair as a necessity for them, but then it's like, okay, what about our necessities? Let's say they do mine, but because they're mining, they're creating all this extra carbon footprint, and the oxygen becomes extra dangerous for humans. So in a way, you might even end up in a war with each other just because of the law of nature, because of resources. You might want this relationship to work, just because, you want a relationship. This goes with everything, your girlfriend or a wife or a long shitty marriage. Just because you want it doesn't mean it's gonna work every single time. Even if there's fucking communication, even if you tried everything you could, and that's great. That's great because there is no growth without challenge. You can't. But then what's the challenge? What's the reach? So then there would have to be a common goal for both species. I say common goal before common enemy, because that would be ultimately the better option. But there will most likely be a common enemy before a common goal in the sense of that. Because I'm arguing for a constitution for an entire race of people that don't even exist yet. And yet, our current society can't even get over the fact that one person has white skin and then one other person has black skin. You know what I mean? Like, it's so confounded that our entire human race wants to go in the future, and they're like, oh, we want flying cars, we want this, we want that. But some of us can't even get over the basic fucking shit. The most basic fucking shit. Like, wow. And that's where I'm gonna end this tangent, because I that shit gets me triggered. But that was a fucking fantastic. Like, I'm not even playing the game yet, and I've been talking an hour into the philosophy of this. There's so many movies and shows that kind of touch up on this as well. There was a show called I can't remember. It's like Droid? No. Humans? I don't know. But it was almost the same premise. It was like androids and helping. Interesting. Alright, so all that came off of that question right there. Oh no, it came off of this one. All of that came off of what is it to look at humans from an outsider perspective and to see through the eyes of a machine. Now, I actually kind of really put my foot in my mouth, because I really said it from the human's perspective, trying to look through an android's perspective. But it's still ultimately a human's perspective, right? But then there's seeing the world through an eyes of a machine. I think that would be like fundamentals to keep the program going, which is the same thing as life. But we'll see. We'll get into that second question more. So I had an amazing answer for the first part, and for the second part, this is I love to learn. So show me what's up. Let's get another perspective on this bitch. Another perspective is just another type of seasoning. You get more seasonings in those motherfucker, and you're gonna have some bomb food. All right, their lives, your choice. Shape the ambitious branching narrative where your decisions not only determine the fate of three main characters, but the entire city of Detroit. How you control Kara, Connor, and Marcus can mean life or death, and if one of them pays the ultimate price, the story still continues. Countless paths, countless endings. Every decision you make, no matter how minute, affects the outcome of the story. No playthrough will be exactly the same. Repeat again and again to discover a totally different conclusion. Which, this is what I said before I went on that whole tangent, where I'll do a kind of a me playthrough, and then I'll do a mean playthrough, and then I'll do a good playthrough. Fully optimized for PC. Detroit Become Human is brought to PC with stunning graphics, 4K resolution, 60 frames per second frame rate, and a full integration to both mouse and keypad controllers, and for the most complete Detroit Becoming Human experience up to date. Mature content. The developer described the content like this: the game may contain content not appropriate for all ages, may not be appropriate for viewing at work, frequent violence or gore, general mature content. Now that was a game intro right there. So we'll scan through the pictures, and then we'll watch the trailer, and then we'll boot it up. This is like a crime scene, and then kind of like holographic stuff, like pointing shit out. This looks like fucking that Will Smith movie. What movie was that? I can't remember the movie, but there was a movie with Will Smith and robots and murder and all the things we're talking about, and one of the things in the movie that, like, I don't know why for me, but like literally at the beginning of the movie, he bust out some fucking old school Chucks as if that was gonna be the shit in the future, and that's what stuck with me is Chucks. Okay, that doesn't look good. That definitely looks like one of the players or people who played. Shit. Okay.
We are all the result of the choices we've made. Every decision, every word, every silence defines who we are, who we will be, who we could have been. You can choose to live with your head down, stay in line, obey orders, and become who everybody wants you to be. Or you can choose to stand up, fight for what you believe in, and become who you really are. Through our decisions, we write our own story. Now it's time to make my choices, to decide who I will be. My name is Connor. I'm the android sent by Cyberlife. My mission is to stop the deviants. That's what I was designed to be. But what I do now is up to you.
That was a good way of leaving that open. That was a really good way of leaving that open. Because the second he said, I was designed to stop the deviants. And what's a deviant? Deviant is a diversion. What's a diversion? Something that goes off course. So you can say a person is a deviant. someone off course. And so what is an off course android? You know, see that see. So is he acting like an android or is he acting like a person? And were the other two acting like an android or were they acting like people? The concept of what it means to be human is just so fucking confound that can it really be answered? You know what I mean? Like you can layer it up all you want, but everyone will have a different a different reasoning, a different logic, a different emotion to what it means to be human. And I was going somewhere with the deviate. That's what started this. Is the deviation. But yeah, so that they leave it automatically right there. Boom, open ended. So the second you don't even start the game yet, and they're like, hey, this is gonna be open ass fucking game. You're gonna have to figure this out. I like it. This was way awesome. All right.